Welcome to the Onco PT podcast, where you'll learn from oncology experts, practitioners, and patients to help you on your journey to become a confident and competent Onco PT. Here's your host, Elise Cantu.
Hey Onco PT, and welcome to this episode of the Onco PT podcast. Now, for the past few weeks, we have been doing preview episodes for the upcoming APTA CSM conference happening in Houston, officially starting actually in just a couple days, which I am so excited for. But I would be lying if I said that any other session was like going to be my favorite, because I think this one's going to be my favorite. Here's why. I have the tremendous privilege to be bringing you a very wonderful topic with my co-presenter, Dr. Alexandra Hill, and with another fabulous physical therapist, Dr. Kelly Sturm. You know her, you love her as Cancer Rehab PT on the socials. Sadly, she is not here tonight, but she will be at the conference, and we cannot wait to bring you this super amazing, super unique topic. So without further ado, Dr. Alexandra Hill, welcome back to the Onco PT podcast.
Thank you so much, Dr. Elise. I, as always, love your podcast. I get really excited for these annual kind of podcast series where you interview the people that are speaking, because it's one thing to go online or go on the app and read through the titles and the abstracts, but then to really hear like the behind the scenes and the true motivation and like the extra little tidbits and juicy bits of like why people are doing these talks and why they're so important, I just absolutely love. So thank you so much for having me on.
Oh my gosh, of course. I couldn't wait to have you back. First of all, we have previously had you on the podcast this year to talk about your upcoming session, which you are doing with the Dr. Rebecca Seagraves, which you're so excited for. If you haven't listened to that episode, definitely cue it up. It's going to be another great one. But Alex, you are also doing another presentation at CSM. Can we talk about our session, which is within the oncology section? It's called ON Oncology 20871. Why isn't cancer rehab trending? Cancer rehab in the age of social media. So how did this all get started? Why this topic?
So I think I get inspired every year at CSM. And I get ignited by conversations and with seeing old friends, new friends, and connecting, and really also getting kind of a kick in the butt, because if you are, it's kind of sidebar, if you're thinking about submitting an abstract for CSM, the turnaround is very quick for the next year. And so I was just really inspired by the people around me, including you, Dr. Elise, and other people that are in social media, and kind of just doing the thing and taking the dive and putting themselves out there to spread the word about physical therapy and cancer rehab. But really, when we look at everything that is trending, especially in healthcare, like cancer rehab is like teeny tiny sliver of that. And when we look at the millions of cancer survivors every year that's continuing to grow, why isn't it trending? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, when we look at then co-presenters and putting topics together and getting speakers together and presentations together, it's finding other people that can help elevate it. And who better than you and Dr. Kelly, who to get like powerhouses. And I think we each have a very unique perspective and approach to social media. And I think that that's really going to come out with our upcoming session.
Mm-hmm. I really, really appreciate that we're starting off with, and we'll actually do this in our session too, but talking about, social media is here. It's been here for decades. It's not going anywhere, and increasingly, and this is not a new phenomenon, right? If you've been paying attention whatsoever, you know that people go to the internet, go to social media to find the answers to their questions. And we see this with, I'm looking for what's the best place to go bowling in Fort Worth, for example, but I'm also looking for health information. And for the average consumer, anywhere that they can go that they can find information easily, that they can understand and then implement, that's what they're looking for. So even if maybe your patients, like you don't think your patients are doing this, they are looking for this information. And despite this, exponential just explosion of the use of social media to get health information, we're not seeing a correlating trend upward in the amount of information that's available out there for cancer rehab, whether that's just the quantity or whether that's also the, again, easy to find, easy to understand, and easy to implement into their own lives. Don't get me wrong. There are the few and the mighty, but there's not nearly enough out there spreading this information so that everybody has access to it.
Yep. I couldn't have said it better. And I'm really hoping that it trends in the direction of, for example, pelvic health, where 10 years ago, right? Like when I first started practicing, like not a lot of people knew about it, even in the rehab space. Mm-hmm. And now, I mean, it has just exploded, which has its own pros and cons, of people out there promoting pelvic health on social media who may not be completely qualified to be putting these things out. And we do go into that, some of that in our talk for CSM. Right. But also it's just exploded, and it's really exciting to see that, because you see these comments on different posts or videos that go viral, and people are saying like, I didn't know this was something that I could do. Like, I thought this was normal. Like, I feel like I've been gaslit my whole life because I thought that this was an issue. And so I'm hoping that trend also happens with cancer rehab, in terms of that it does blow up, that people are talking about it more, and more than just like the magic diet pill, right? Like the magic cancer pill, the magic diet, like these kind of just icky things that are out there that get the clickbait views and engagement when that's not beneficial. So I'm really hoping that cancer rehab does start to trend upwards. But like you said, even though there's the few and the mighty right now, like I'm hoping as we get more people into oncology rehab also, that will help too. So thank you for all of your efforts with getting people engaged and understanding that oncology, everybody should be trained in oncology rehab.
Mm-hmm. I can imagine there's a listener right now who has their earbuds in and is kind of resistant or is feeling a little prickly about social media and practice. Because I know when I first started practicing, however many years ago that was now, maybe 7, I think I'm coming up on 7. All I wanted to do, I wanted to come into the clinic, I wanted to treat my patients, and I wanted to go home. And that's all I wanted. That's all I ever wanted. And that changed very rapidly.
That's all we ever want.
I mean. And so, I know that there is probably some pushback or maybe some resistance that we might encounter as far as, is social media really an appropriate platform for oncology physical therapists to be on? What would you say to that?
Why not? Like, I mean, just straight up, like, I would be curious why we're not qualified or why we shouldn't be on, especially getting political here.
Girl, we do.
We have to. I mean, and this was one of the main reasons why I started my oncopelvic PT, why I started my social media in 2020, was because there was such a wave of disinformation, of misinformation. There was a lack of diversity. There was a lack of inclusion on healthcare topics that were being talked about. And it was so infuriating to me to see the damage that what was being put out there, what that was doing to the general public. And so I thought, damn, like I'm gonna need to do something. And so that was my small way at that time to like put out good information that I knew people could trust. And
yes,
we need to rise to that challenge that is happening now again in 2025. It is becoming increasingly harder for the for practitioners and healthcare providers, let alone the general public, to be able to discern what is factual, what's not factual. But even if prominent government figures are quoting a paper and recognizing like this was actually a really low quality paper, the general public doesn't know that. And so we have that additional training in appraising articles and appraising research and being able to communicate this with our patients one-on-one. Why shouldn't we be taking it then to a broader level and reaching even more people that need it?
First of all, 100% agree to all of this. When I talk to, physical therapists about treating patients with cancer, there's a lot of resistance initially for many, not for everybody.
Sure.
But one of the points that I like to leave them with is, if not you, then who?
Yep, absolutely.
And I think this applies exceptionally well in this situation also in two ways. So the first way is, if not you, the listener right now, taking this charge to communicate information accurately so that your community can access this information, can understand it, then who's going to do it? There's nobody to pass this down onto and say, they'll take care of it. We don't have that kind of opportunity. We don't have that kind of time to do it. Because the second half of this is, if not you, then who? Well, we, unfortunately, and this is not directed at any one person, there is unfortunately a plethora of content creators out there who, whether it's malicious intent or not, we're not here to discuss that, are spreading disinformation, misinformation that is not only unhelpful for patients as they are seeking this information, it is sometimes actively harming patients who are looking for this information. And it's not that they're dumb. We're not saying that social media users, that patients are stupid or dumb or they can't read. It is very challenging to get access to scientific information. We know that articles are behind paywalls. Right. We know that information is not disseminated from behind that paywall to the general community very, very well. So there are stops along the way that are preventing this kind of access to information from happening. And those that can get this information may not be doing the most appropriate job of disseminating, like understanding and then disseminating that information appropriately. And that is hurting our patients. That is harming our communities. And we have an ethical responsibility as healthcare professionals to address that in our communities.
Yep. I completely agree. And then the question comes, if you do see that as a healthcare provider, or even if you're just, scrolling online just as a consumer and you're not, you don't have your healthcare provider hat, you don't have your oncology rehab provider hat on, what do you do when you see it?
Oh man.
Do you leave it? Do you say something to the creator of that content? Do you call them out? Do you what do you do?
Alex asking the real questions here.
Yeah. And it's challenging, and we will go through this in our talk, but I mean, it is challenging when you do see something that is from a colleague, and a colleague meaning like another PT or another OT or somebody else in oncology. And you're like, ooh, like that's actually not quite right. Yeah. And then, is it because of how they presented it? Like, was the messaging just off? And I am first to say, like, I have had a post up and I'm like, oh, this is gold. Like, this makes sense. This would be how I'd explain it to a patient. No, completely bombs. People completely misconstrue it. And I have to go back and I have to think, oh, okay, that didn't quite land how I thought it was. And I have to take action to correct it. Totally. And so, but we all need to hold that responsibility of, if we are putting things out there, that we're holding ourselves responsible too. Absolutely. But, as I said, like, it can be really challenging when you do see something that's not quite right, whether it be misinformation or disinformation.
It's easy, especially in this day and age with, social media, even just the act of using social media, being on social media has now become I mean, not just now, right? But has been in the media. Like, we are actively having, as we're recording this and previously, and I'm sure it's going to continue, like, we are having mass conversations and like legislative efforts that are changing how we use social media, how we're able to use social media. And Alex and I were talking about this off air before we, started recording this podcast. When we came up with this topic last year and submitted it, and even when we were writing the slides, back over the summer and in the fall, we had no idea how this topic would fit or that it would be as relevant as what it is in today's political and social climate. And that, I'm not going to lie, initially it was a little intimidating to be like, oh my gosh. But also, I think this is a more timely than ever conversation because of what we're talking about and the reasons for why it's so critical for healthcare professionals to be using our critical thinking skills, our clinical judgment skills, to spread the word about this and to make connections with our community. And it's easy, especially in light of what's going on, to feel like social media is really heavy and it's really stressful. And sometimes it is, don't get me wrong. But social media is also a really cool way to connect with your community. And sometimes that's a geographic community, right? If you're a private practice owner or, like you work in a specific area and that's who you're trying to reach on social media. But it's a great way to connect with people. And that's one of the coolest things I think that I've seen about social media. So, Alex, what would you tell the person who's maybe feeling a little intimidated, like, oh, social media seems kind of scary and overwhelming and stressful, and gosh, I don't even know what's going to happen with the platforms. Like, what would you tell the person feeling that right now?
I would say to kind of assess why you want to get on social media. And just kind of taking an appraisal of the different platforms that are out there. Even with microblogging now, there's historically been Twitter. It's Twitter. It's Twitter. And, and now there's Blue Sky. And Blue Sky is really getting a lot of traction because it's seen as a more kind of positive community. There's no ads. It's, it's just kind of a little bit less angry platform, I feel like sometimes.
Absolutely.
And so I think just kind of, again, like looking at why you want to get on social media and what platform might be good for you. But also at the end of the day, and we saw this really come to fruition a couple weeks ago in January, was you don't own your content on their platforms.
Exactly.
It's they can do what they want with it, essentially. I mean, if you really look at the terms and agreements that you're just checking that box on, I mean, at the end of the day, if a platform like TikTok gets taken off, like you lose those followers, you lose those engagements, you lose those views, you lose those comments, you lose those warm leads or hot leads for your product or your service. And so I think it's also important to make sure that you're always linking back to your home base. Like if you have a blog or your own website, build your newsletter list for ways that you can still connect with your followers and subscribers off those social media platforms. I think for a lot of people, especially in healthcare, and especially we'll see in these coming years, we don't know what kind of reach or engagement we'll continue to get. I'm in pelvic health and oncology, and I'm already seeing my pelvic posts are not getting as much engagement. And I've even reposted ones from last year that did great, and this year they're not, different terms and that kind of thing. So, just being mindful to not maybe come into it as a mindset of ride or die by social media. You know, like it is a tool to reach people, but it shouldn't be the only tool. And having maybe two separate ones that you can reach people with. When we look at the research, the majority of people are on at least, I think, like 5 or 7 different platforms. I think it's 5 platforms.
It's crazy.
Myself,
crazy.
I think I'm on like 7 or 8.
Guilty.
Even not as a creator, like, and so like if you choose 2, you at least have, if one goes darker, there, you know, Instagram will have glitches and shut down for a day and everyone freaks out. But like you at least have 2 different ways to reach people as well. So, and I think that's, you know, I think you're talking about in our presentation how to choose a platform. So what would you say to someone who is deciding between, you know, Twitter and Instagram and YouTube? Like there's so many different ones out there. Like how does somebody choose?
Yeah. And like Alex said, this is something that we'll go into and actually work through in the actual session. But you kind of have to come at it from 2 different angles, which is, where are the people that I am trying to reach? I had a conversation a few months back with another physical therapist who's like, you know, I really want to get more onto social media so I can reach my patients. Like I want to do a lot more educating. And so I asked this person, you know, where are you present? And they said, blah, blah platform, whatever that is. And I said, that's amazing. Based on what you're telling me, your patients are not over on this platform, because that's more of a like business marketing and networking. It was LinkedIn, FYI, just in case you're wondering.
I was thinking that.
Which LinkedIn is great. LinkedIn is awesome. But for this person is trying to go, that's not where their community is. That's not where their patients are. And, you know, this person is working to find out whatever that is. So number 1, where are the people that you are trying to reach? Where are they spending their time on social media, on the apps? And then number 2, that needs to match with where do you want to spend your time? Because if you hate using, I'm going to throw Facebook under the bus. Facebook for me, like I don't go on Facebook anymore. I just can't. Like it's visually, it is too much for me. And so my platform of choice is Instagram. Like Instagram is where I have built my stuff. Instagram is where I enjoy spending my time, and it is where I have found and curated the community that I have wanted to build. So it really needs to be, where are your people? Where do you want to spend your time? And if those are not a match, we need to work to find the match, because I can guarantee you it's out there. We may just have to think it through a little bit. And I love what Kelly has a statement, and I don't want to steal her thunder. Okay. But like, if Kelly were here, I would have her tell you this and then come to our session so she can tell you in person. But she has this lovely quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it because hers is better. If you are not enjoying social media, or if you need to take a break, pull back. You have the permission, not that you need permission from us. If you're not enjoying it, if it is sucking the soul out of you, that's okay. Take a break. I have taken multiple breaks over my time as the Onco PT from social media. I'm actually just coming back from a pretty extended break because there were a lot of personal things that were happening. And I was like, I have to devote my attention to this. And you have to be able, just like you do with your oncology patients, you show up to serve them, to work with them, etc. You can't do that if you're running on empty. Yep. Social media is the same.
Yep. Completely agree.
Oh man, maybe I should have you on here to ask me more questions more often, because I like talking and having questions to answer.
So what do you like about Instagram so much?
Okay, this is going to sound so strange, and like I'm very aware.
I'm very excited about this now.
On Instagram, I love that it's very visual. Like I'm a very visual person. I love video because it's usually like pretty quick paced, and I feel like I can get a lot of information about a bunch of different things in a relatively short period of time. And I've curated my feed so that I'm only following people that I want to, and I know I'm going to learn stuff from. Like Dr. Alexandra Hill, Oncopelvic PT on social media, and Dr. Kelly Sturm, Cancer Rehab PT on social media also. So like, I love that aspect of things. It's a visually beautiful platform. Maybe that makes me a little vain too. I can learn a lot of things very, very quickly. I love the video aspect of it. And I also, this is like such a silly small thing. I love that when I'm on Instagram, it takes up my whole screen. Yes. I feel like with the other like when I scroll, I can see all the different things
so much.
And for my brain, I cannot. So Instagram, it's where I found success early on. And I have found that with the updates over time, like not everything's great, but it has just kept me coming back for as long as I've wanted to. I like that I can do the videos, I can do photo posts, I can engage with my audience relatively easily, which is fantastic.
Yep.
Ma'am, what if you had to pick one platform only? Where would you spend your time professionally as oncopelvic PT?
I'm going to say it really fast. Instagram, YouTube.
Okay, except because that's the beautiful thing about social media too. And you know, we'll talk about this in our session. You can repurpose stuff. In fact, you can use the same content.
Yep.
On 2 platforms. So Alex is one of the queens of this. So why Instagram, YouTube?
So I agree with you about Facebook. I don't think it, especially on like the business, like creator side of things, it's very clunky.
It's hard for me.
It's just, there's too much to like have to scroll through.
Yes.
So I agree with you on basically on every point with Instagram. I've in general liked the updates that they've come out with over the years. I like the stories function, like you said, like I like to be able to have just like information posts, and then especially if I don't feel like being on camera, then I can do, you know, a static post or a carousel. I like that they have the live options available, you know, where you're interviewing with somebody like actually on the app. I really like that as well.
Yeah.
I like finding a little trending audio. Like, I think that's fun. I don't have as much time to do that recently. But also with Instagram, that talks with Threads and can potentially talk with WhatsApp, because that's also Meta, and it talks with Facebook. So if you post on Instagram, or so I schedule on Facebook, but then you can cross post it across all of those platforms. So for me, I like Instagram for like I said, a lot of the reasons that you said. I like that it takes up the whole screen, especially now with the recommended 4:5 ratio instead of the 1:1 ratio.
The square.
I know. R.I.P. square.
R.I.P. square. That's right.
Like, I need more of my screen covered, please.
Exactly.
I need more of Elise's beautiful face on it.
Stop it, you. I always scroll for yours. Like, where's Alex today?
And one of the things that they've done more recently is you can now post a longer reel. So that's nice. But I do like also having YouTube available because of the longer content. So one of the issues that I would run into sometimes, and this goes into some like what I was talking about earlier, where like a video, especially like, ooh, like people took this one word that I said and like completely misconstrued the entire video because of that one word. Absolutely. That like, okay, maybe that wasn't the best word, but I'm also not saying that. And so I find with YouTube, because I can have, you know, really long form content, I can get into more detail about specific topics or exercises, or go through how to safely do stretches for radiation therapy versus, you know, on Instagram, it's usually like, okay, check out these top 3 stretches after radiation therapy. And then like 2 seconds of each one. And then that's it. And then there's maybe room in the caption, but then the caption really then you need to use for your call to action. So it's, you know, I find that I really like that about YouTube, and you can still have the shorts on YouTube as well. But you don't get the static posts that you get on Instagram that I also really like as well. So that's why I said it really fast and combined the two.
I'll allow it just for you, though. Just for you.
And now YouTube has the memberships. They have more engagement on YouTube. They have polls. So like I feel like YouTube's done a really good job on increasing how you engage with your subscribers versus just them passively watching, which I think is nice too.
Right. First of all, I recognize, so full disclosure, Alex and I, and Kelly too, are social media junkies. Like, we spend our time thinking about social media, and not just scrolling, but like thinking about what's on social media, what's working on social media. We've also been doing this for years at this point. Just like when you first started as a physical therapist, way back, baby Uncle PTU, so cute. There were a lot of challenges. There were a lot of growing pains and struggles as you learned these new skills. Social media is a skill. Using social media, not just as a user, but as a creator, like we're talking about, is a skill. It's a muscle that you work on. It's not something that you're going to pick up and be amazing at. If you do, please call me, because I would like to, let's have some chats. And so I don't want you to feel discouraged by, we're 6 years into doing this and showing up and making mistakes and having to fix those mistakes and thinking we've got things figured out and making more mistakes. But that's how we get better. That's how you got better as an Onco PT. That's how you're going to get better as showing up on social media, how it works best for you, what feels best for you. So Alex, for the listener who's like, okay, I think I'm convinced, I think I'm going to try it. What advice would you give to the person who is first starting on social media?
To choose one thing. Honestly, I would probably say start with your, and this might, well, there's nothing like right or wrong really in social media, but like I would say like start with your bio. And I say that because your bio shows who you are. Like if you look at mine, Elise's or Kelly, like if you look at our bios, like you know what we do, who our audience is, and what they can expect.
Bingo.
And I think if you're able to start with that, or at least, and that changes, right? Like over the last, like you said, 6 years, like, oh my God, I changed it so many times. When I first started, that Instagram said that I could not change it anymore for like 30 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
know? But I say that because I think that will also help you stay on task and on point with what your content is and who your audience is. Because it's so easy to then get imposter syndrome, like many of us do, myself included, and like see what all these other people are doing and like try to keep up with the trends and try to do this. And then you kind of lose who you are, why you're on there, and who you're there for. So I think if you can start with your bio, even if it's just like one line, like Onco PT, kicking butt and helping people not fall because of chemotherapy. Like, it's like, right? So just like
someone please use that. Someone please steal that and use it right now. You're welcome, world. You're welcome.
Wordsmith it up a little bit. But like, if you can start with your bio, then that's going to help you be able to craft your message. And that message should be consistent with everything that you do. So I think that's where I would start at.
I love that anchor. It's anchoring you to what is your purpose, what is your goal with that.
Yep.
Mine would be, because I'm going to tell you what I think. I would say I don't want to use the word schedule here, but create a plan that you can stick with and be consistent and reliable with. Now, notice, dear listener, I did not say post daily.
No.
Okay. In fact, I think that's one of the worst things you could do when you first get started. But curate a posting schedule for you. Start with once a week. Yep. I'm serious. Once a week. And when you can get that down and show up consistently, because this is something that I talk about in my actual section of our session, your audience, your community is depending on you, and they need to know that you are going to show up for them consistently, reliably, because that starts to build that trust. Because just because you show up on social media and you've got this, I don't know, beautiful camera in front of you and these crazy lights that you bought on the internet, and you look super gorgeous on social media, which you do. You do, friend. I see you. That does not automatically earn your community's trust. You have to commit to showing up for them in a predictable fashion so that they learn they can rely on you, they can trust you. And so, like I said, start with once a week, but commit to being consistent like that. And that's going to set a foundation that is unshakable, especially when, things get a little rough and maybe you want to start experimenting. And, you can always come back to that stable foundation of trust with your community. That's it.
I think that's fantastic. So, and that actually reminds me of a story that involves the ever incredible Scott Capozza.
Oh, so we love
him. We love you, Scott.
We love.
So when I first started out, I would try to be posting daily because I was a crazy person.
I understand.
2020, everybody was a crazy person.
Everybody crazy.
But I always had Terminology Tuesday. Even if I couldn't post other things that week, I always had my Terminology Tuesday, and I would go through and have a poster carousel that had, radiation fibrosis, hysterectomy, like something that was related to pelvic health and oncology. And I would go through what that terminology was. And I remember that a couple months in, Scott said, I think he texted me, and he was like, I love your content. Like, I always know to expect a Terminology Tuesday post. Like every Tuesday, like I make sure to look at your content. And that really spoke volumes of like, even if I'm only consistent one day, like that's something that is consistent. People can trust that I'm going to show up exactly like you said. And I would like cite, the, PMID or the DOI, like I would cite like where I got that from, because I felt like, okay, like no one knows me. Like no one cares what I'm talking about. Like also imposter syndrome. Like what am I doing on here? But if I could just do that Terminology Tuesday post, like I felt confident in that. So I completely agree with your statement of like, get yourself a schedule. Do not try to post every day. It's just not, especially when you're first starting out and like learning to use Canva and how to create the post. Like it would take me like an hour to make one post.
Yes.
When you first start out. Now I can knock out a bunch of them, but it's, now like you said, like I have learned the skill. I took classes, I took webinars, I watched YouTube videos, I signed up for newsletters. Like you said, it is a skill that you have to learn and continue to learn from, and also continue to keep up with as these platforms continue to change. But at the same time, stay anchored and true to who you are and why you're showing up.
Yes. Okay, so that recapped our whole session. Boom, you're done. Like, done.
That's it.
Now there's a lot more juice that we're going to get into in our session, of course, and we cannot wait to have you come and see it. Also, to take all of the amazing information that Dr. Kelly Sturm is going to cover too. Like I said, I know she's not here this evening, but we cannot wait to have her go into the deliciousness behind kind of a lot of like what's happening on social media. And anyways, I'm not going to give it away. It's far too juicy. I have to wait for her to actually give the presentation.
That's
Alex,
gonna be good.
when is our session happening?
Our session is Thursday, 3 to 5 p.m. Like, I know that it's Thursday, end of the day. Yep, 3 to 5. Yes.
You have 2 sessions. I only have one to keep track of. So yes, can confirm it is Thursday, February 13th from 3 to 5 p.m. Come see us. It is going to be the best way to end the first day of the conference. We cannot wait to see you. And our session will be available on demand. We will be recording at CSM, and then that will be uploaded, posted later by the powers that be. But the energy is going to be there in the room. Not to quote one of Alex's, I think, favorite musicals, but Hamilton, like in the room, whatever.
Yeah.
This is you being in the room, my friend, with the queens of cancer rehab social media, Dr. Alexandra Hill, Dr. Kelly Sturm, and myself. And we're really, really excited to have you. So
yes, very excited. And even better, we are in the Marriott Marquis. And so if you're staying there, just roll out of bed, come see us, and then you can just go right back to bed if you need to. Take a little breather. I think
Take
people
your
do
siesta.
not,
Absolutely.
right? They do not take space to like decompress more during CSM. So great location.
Alex,
you don't have to battle the crowds in the convention center to come see us too and have some fun, get confident with social media.
I'm going to pause you because I learned I learned 2 hacks from Alex last CSM, one pre, one during. So pre was pack a steamer for your clothes, which I don't know why I never thought of that. But when I saw you do that, I thought, oh my God, my life has changed. Guess what? It did.
Can also boil your water for instant coffee in the morning.
Oh my God.
Because I'm not about to wait in a 30-minute coffee line.
Oh, absolutely not. So that was number 1. Number 2 was instead of trying to pack all the things into the breaks, the very, very short breaks that we get, Alex goes to her hotel room and does not speak to anybody. And I am like a toddler or like a child where I go too hard, too fast. And then by Saturday afternoon, I'm dead at CSM. And I was just... I didn't know I could do that. I've been going to CSM for like 10 years at this point. And I was like, I didn't know that you could do that.
I mean, okay, I do have to say last year was the first year that I did that.
Genius.
But truly, like, I felt like I could then show up more and better when I was out and about because I love CSM. It's so invigorating and it's so energizing and I love seeing everybody. But holy moly, like the introvert in me was like, let me just go sit in silence. And it was amazing. Like, even if you just do that for like one break, like that 1 hour break, life-changing.
For more life-changing CSM hacks, make sure to follow Alexandra on social media.
Also, save your badge holder. I kept mine.
Oh my God, that's number 3 that I learned from you this year.
Because it's so hard to find them and then to find the ribbons. And like, I feel like every year it's the same one. So I kept it and now I'm ready to go.
Boom. Alex can roll in to the conference Thursday morning like, don't worry, I got it. I got this. Excuse me. Oh my God. What is, as we wrap up, one thing that you want listeners to take away from our session on Thursday, February 13th at 3 to 5 p.m.
3 to 5. If there's one thing, show up in whatever way that means to you, even if that's just like getting a handle. It's just taking that initial step and not thinking that you have to become this influencer in the wild like immediately when you start, because one, that's just likely not going to happen, but it's going to be really overwhelming. So just take that first step and just show up for the people who need it, which are your patients or other researchers or healthcare providers, whoever it is. Like, you're showing up for them.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want people to take away?
Okay, I'm going to steal that and a little bit of what you said earlier about like the bio and whatnot. But always come back to your why of why are you doing this and who are you working to connect with in this space. And if you can always anchor yourself back to that, even as you start trying different things, as the algorithm changes, which it's going to, period, no matter what platform you're
Monthly.
on. Yeah, exactly. As, updates happen, as the world changes around us, like if you can anchor yourself back to why are you doing this and who are you showing up for? It's not going to make it easy, but it's going to make it easier to focus on why you get on and why you're sticking through the hard times, because oh my God, I have to share this. So last year I was working with a patient and it was this crazy situation. And I think I shared this already on the podcast, but I don't know if I've told you, Alex. So this patient was from out of the country and was in town visiting a family member for a month. This person had lymphedema as a result of breast cancer. And so she her, family member said, hey, she's here for a month. She needs lymphedema therapy until she can go back home. Can you help? I was like, yeah, come on in. And so I'm talking to this patient. I'm like, okay, what have you been doing? What's been working? What's not been working? She says, well, every morning I get up and I do my exercises and I watch my exercise video. I was like, amazing. Show me this exercise video. One, because I want to know, what is it? What are we working with? And then, is this appropriate? Can I make some adjustments? Whatever. And imagine my delight when she pulls up her phone and it is Kelly's face on the video. This woman is from out of the country and is seeing the quality cancer rehab information that Kelly is sharing on social media, and it is positively impacting patients across the globe.
Yep.
This is why we do what we do.
Exactly.
That was such an affirming, this is because of social media. Mm-hmm. This is because of social media that this patient in this country way out there is getting this information, is getting easy access to understandable information to better help care for herself.
Love it.
Perfection.
That's amazing.
Perfection. Where can people find you and connect with you and follow you on social media, since we're talking about it?
All my handles are Oncopelvic PT. All the platforms, pretty much.
I will, of course, link. If you had a preference, because I know that you and I are active on multiple platforms, where would you prefer people to follow you?
Probably Instagram, because that is going to be basically there. And then that's where you can also link to my newsletters. You can find my clinician courses. You can go to my YouTube. So that's kind of my central hub where then I'll link out from.
Love that. Okay. I was going to say Instagram, YouTube. What?
I know. I was trying to be good. I was trying to follow directions. If I had to absolutely choose one, because then I can link to YouTube, and that's Instagram, YouTube.
I'll allow it again. Anything for you, Alex. Well, make sure to mark your calendars again for Thursday, February 13th, 3 to 5 p.m. We cannot wait to see you there. It is the perfect way to end your day on a high note. Starting off the conference, we are so excited to see you. And we will see you in Houston literally almost this time next week. We're really close. We're about 24 hours off, and that's okay. We cannot wait to see you. I will, of course, be linking Alex's information and also Kelly's information in the show notes to this episode, which you can find in your podcast player. Alex, anything else before we sign off for this evening?
Yeehaw, Texas.
That's right, baby. Oh, I told somebody, which Alex knows because she spent some time in Texas. Bring your swimsuit, bring your winter coat. It's a toss-up as to what it could be, so just be prepared. And don't
Either way,
come
I'm going to get in that lazy river on top of the Marriott Marquis. Either way, I don't care what the weather is. I'm hanging out there.
Stop it. Why did I not know there was a lazy river at our hotel?
There's a lazy river in the state of Texas on top of the hotel. Oh, we're going to have,
I didn't know this.
All right, folks, after the celebration of life on Friday at CSM, we're going to have a little
Marriott
after party
Marriott
at
float.
the Texas Lazy River on the rooftop.
Onco float.
TM that.
I can see the t-shirt now. I survived the Onco float of 2025. Someone make a t-shirt for me. I'll see you there. Oh my god.
I love it.
Well, I really have my conference cut out for me now, so I'm really excited for this. And I will see you at the Onco Float if I don't see you at our session on Thursday. But until then, this is Elise with the Onco PT. And remember, you are exactly the physical therapist that your patients with cancer need. So let's get to work.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the OnCo PT podcast. If you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, leave a rating and review, or support us on Patreon.